welcome to my channel. Subscribe, listen, and enjoy my stories every day. The day started like any other. The sun peeked through the blinds, casting slivers of light across the bedroom floor. I stretched, my body heavy with the inertia of sleep, and reached over to the space beside me. It was empty, the sheets cool to the touch. My wife, Darlene, must have already been up for a while. I dragged myself out of bed and shuffled into the kitchen, where the smell of freshly brewed coffee greeted me. Darlene stood by the counter, her back to me, scrolling through her phone. She didn't notice me as I approached, too engrossed in whatever was on the screen. "Morning," I said, trying to shake off the residual grogginess. She jumped slightly, her grip tightening on the phone. "Morning, Alex," she replied, her voice unnaturally bright. "I made coffee. Want some?" I nodded, watching her closely as she poured me a cup. Her movements were quick, almost nervous. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Ever since the start of the year, there had been a subtle shift in her behavior: late-night texts, hushed phone calls, and an unusual guardedness around her phone. I took my coffee and sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through the news on my own phone. As I sipped the hot liquid, I glanced at Darlene. She was still glued to her phone, a small smile playing on her lips. Curiosity gnawed at me, but I forced myself to stay calm. Later that morning, after Darlene left for work, I sat down at my computer. I knew I needed to get to the bottom of whatever was going on. Opening Facebook, I navigated to Darlene's profile. It was there that I noticed the comments. Underneath her recent photo, a candid shot of her laughing at a friend's party, was a string of comments, mostly from friends and family. But one name kept appearing: a man named Brad. His comments were always overly complimentary, bordering on flirtatious. "Looking stunning as always," Darlene, one read. "Wow, you have the most beautiful smile," said another. The frequency of his comments and the familiarity with which he addressed her set off alarm bells. I clicked on his profile. He wasn't a friend of mine, and from what I could see, he was a single guy living not far from us. The more I scrolled, the more unsettled I became. My mind raced with possibilities, each more unpleasant than the last. Was Darlene cheating on me? Was this Brad more than just an admirer? Determined to find out more, I devised a plan. That evening, I would borrow her phone under some pretense and see what I could uncover. The opportunity came sooner than expected. As we sat down for dinner, Darlene left her phone on the kitchen counter. It buzzed several times, and I couldn't help but notice the name that flashed on the screen: Brad. "Your phone's been buzzing a lot," I remarked casually, keeping my voice steady. Darlene glanced at the counter, a flicker of anxiety crossing her face. "Oh, just work stuff," she said quickly. "I'll check it later." I nodded, pretending to be engrossed in my meal. Inside, my heart pounded with a mix of anger and dread. I needed to act quickly. After dinner, while Darlene was in the shower, I seized my chance. Her phone was unlocked, and I navigated to her messages. There it was, a long thread with Brad. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the conversation. It was worse than I had imagined. The messages were filled with flirtatious banter, intimate confessions, and plans to meet up. My stomach churned with a sickening realization: my wife was having an affair. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. I copied Brad's number and returned the phone to its original place. That night, I barely slept. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions: betrayal, anger, sadness. But amid the turmoil, a plan began to take shape. I needed to confront this head-on. The next morning, I would text Brad from Darlene's phone and see where it led. The following day, I waited until Darlene left for work. Then, with her phone in hand, I composed a message to Brad. "Hey, it's Darlene. Can we talk? The response was almost immediate. Hey, D. What are you texting me from this profile for? Did you break up with your husband? Or are you no longer worried that he might expose us? What's up, my paranoid ass? The blood drained from my face as I read the message. There it was, laid bare. My wife was paranoid for a reason, but her lover had clearly underestimated me. I stared at the screen, fury building within me. This wasn't just an affair, it was a betrayal on a level I hadn't fully grasped until now. Brad's casual dismissal of me, the way he talked about Darlene, it all fueled my resolve. I decided then and there that I wouldn't let this slide. I was going to get revenge on the couple in love, and I would make sure they both paid dearly for their deceit. With a newfound determination, I began to formulate my plan. Darlene and Brad thought they could outsmart me, but they were in for a rude awakening. This was just the beginning, and by the end, would ruin their fates and reclaim control over my life. I stare at the message on Darlene's phone, the words burning into my brain. My wife's betrayal stings like a fresh wound, but the casual arrogance of Brad's response infuriates me. I know I have to tread carefully, but I also know I can't let this go. I decide to text Brad back, keeping my tone neutral to avoid suspicion. Hey, Brad. I need to talk. Can we meet today? His reply comes quickly. Sure thing. Usual place. I have no idea where their usual place is, but I need to find out. I decide to stall for time. Actually, let's try somewhere new. How about the coffee shop on 5th and Main? There's a pause before his reply. All right. See you there at 1. See you then, I type back, my mind already racing with plans. I spend the rest of the morning planning my confrontation. I decide to bring in some backup, my best friend, Mark, who also happens to be a private investigator. Mark has always been there for me, and I know I can count on him to help me navigate this mess. I call Mark and explain the situation. I need your help, I say, my voice steady but urgent. I'm meeting this guy, Brad. He's the one Darlene's been seeing. Jesus, Alex. I'm sorry to hear that, Mark replies, his voice filled with concern. Of course I'll help. Let's meet at the coffee shop a bit before 1, and we'll figure out a plan. I hang up, feeling a small measure of relief. With Mark by my side, I'm confident we can handle whatever happens next. By the time I arrive at the coffee shop, my nerves are frayed, but I'm resolute. I spot Mark sitting at a corner table, looking casual but alert. He's a tall, broad-shouldered man with a no-nonsense demeanor that always puts me at ease. Alex, he greets me, standing up to give me a firm handshake. You ready for this? As ready as I'll ever be, I reply, sitting down across from him. Mark lays out the plan. I'll be sitting nearby, keeping an eye on things. If it gets ugly, I'll step in. Just get him talking, and we'll go from there. I nod, grateful for his support. We wait in tense silence until Brad arrives. He's a good-looking guy, dressed in a casual but stylish outfit. He looks around the coffee shop, spots me, and heads over with a confident stride. Hey, Darlene, he starts, but stops short when he sees me. Brad, is it? I say, standing up to face him. I'm Alex, Darlene's husband. His eyes widen in shock, and he glances around, probably looking for Darlene. What the hell is this? He demands. Sit down, I say, keeping my voice calm but firm. We need to talk. Brad hesitates but eventually sits down, his expression wary. What do you want? I know about you and Darlene, I begin, my voice low and controlled. I've seen the messages. I know what's been going on. Brad's face pales slightly, but he tries to maintain his composure. Look, man, I didn't mean to cause any trouble. You've already caused trouble, I interrupt, leaning forward. But now you're going to help me fix it. Fix it? Brad echoes, clearly confused. Yes, I say, my voice steely. You're going to end things with Darlene. And you're going to help me gather evidence against her. Brad looks stunned. Evidence? Why would I do that? Because if you don't, I say, my voice cold, I'll make sure your life becomes very difficult. I have a friend who's a private investigator, I gesture subtly towards Mark, and we can dig up everything about you. Your job, your family, everything. Brad's eyes flicker with fear. All right, he says, holding up his hands. I'll do it. Just tell me what you need. I lean back, feeling a grim satisfaction. Good. Here's what we're going to do. Over the next hour, I outline my plan to Brad. He'll text Darlene and tell her that he's met someone else and can't see her anymore. Then, he'll agree to meet with her one last time, where Mark and I will be waiting to catch them in the act, gathering the final pieces of evidence I need. Brad reluctantly agrees, clearly unhappy but too scared to refuse. By the time we're done, I feel a strange mix of anger and triumph. I know this is just the beginning, but it's a step towards reclaiming control over my life. As Brad leaves, Mark and I sit back, our mission clear. You did good, Mark says, clapping me on the shoulder. We'll get through this, Alex. One step at a time. I nod, grateful for his support. Thanks, Mark. I don't know what I'd do without you. We're in this together, he replies, a determined look in his eyes. Now, let's get to work. As we leave the coffee shop, I feel a sense of purpose. Darlene and Brad think they've outsmarted me, but they have no idea what's coming. This is just the beginning of my revenge, and I'm determined to see it through to the end. The next few days are a whirlwind of preparation. Mark and I spend hours meticulously planning every detail of our trap. The tension gnaws at me, but the thought of finally confronting Darlene keeps me focused. The day of the confrontation arrives, and I can hardly contain my nerves. Mark and I set up at a small, dimly lit bar on the outskirts of town, the kind of place where nobody pays attention to strangers. It's the perfect location for what we need to do. We arrive early to set up. Mark brings a small camera and positions it discreetly in a corner, ensuring it captures the entire seating area without being noticeable. We run a few tests, checking the angles and sound quality. Satisfied, we sit down to wait. Relax, Alex, Mark says, sensing my anxiety. We've got this. I know, I reply, trying to steady my breathing. I just want this to be over. Our wait isn't long. Brad texts me from Darlene's phone, confirming that she's on her way. My heart pounds as the minutes tick by. Finally, Darlene walks in, her face a mix of confusion and determination. She spots Brad and heads over to him, her expression softening. They sit down, and I can see her reaching out to touch his hand. The sight of it makes my blood boil, but I force myself to stay calm. This is what I need to see. Brad starts talking, his voice low and serious. Darlene, I've been thinking a lot about us. She frowns, clearly sensing something is off. What's going on, Brad? I can't do this anymore, he says, looking down. I met someone else. Darlene's face pales, and she withdraws her hand. What? Are you serious? Yeah, Brad continues, playing his part well. I'm sorry, but it's over. Darlene looks stunned, her eyes filling with tears. But I thought we had something special. Brad sighs, glancing around nervously. I'm sorry, Darlene. I really am. I watch, my heart pounding, as Darlene sits back, her expression turning from hurt to anger. You coward, she hisses. I gave up everything for you. That's enough, I say, stepping out from my hiding spot. Darlene's head snaps up, her eyes widening in shock. Alex, she stammers. What are you doing here? I could ask you the same thing, I reply, my voice cold. But I think I already know. Darlene looks between me and Brad, realization dawning on her face. You set this up, she whispers, her voice trembling with rage. You set this whole thing up. Yes, I did, I say, stepping closer. Because I needed to see the truth with my own eyes. Her face crumples, and she looks away, unable to meet my gaze. I'm sorry, she whispers. I never wanted to hurt you. Too late for that, I reply, my voice hard. Now, it's time for you to face the consequences. The tension in the air is palpable as I turn to Mark, who steps forward with the camera. We've got everything we need, he says, his voice calm and professional. Let's wrap this up. Darlene looks at the camera, her eyes widening in horror. You recorded this? Yes, I say, my voice unwavering. And now, I have all the evidence I need. She stands up, her face a mask of fury. You bastard, she spits. You think you can just ruin my life like this? You ruined your own life, I reply, my voice steady. I'm just making sure you face the consequences. Darlene's shoulders slump, and she looks away, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, she whispers again. I never wanted it to end like this. Neither did I say, my voice softening slightly. But you made your choices. Now, you have to live with them. Brad stands up, looking awkward and uncomfortable. I'm gonna go, he mutters, backing away. Not so fast, Mark says, stepping in his path. We're not done with you yet. Brad freezes, looking terrified. What do you want from me? He asks, his voice shaking. You're going to tell us everything, Mark replies, his voice firm. Every detail about your relationship with Darlene. And you're going to do it now. Brad looks at me, his eyes pleading. Please, man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. Start talking, I say, my voice cold. Or things are going to get a lot worse for you. Over the next hour, Brad spills everything. He tells us how he and Darlene met, how their relationship developed, and all the lies they told to keep it hidden. Every word feels like a dagger to my heart, but I force myself to listen. I need to know the full extent of their betrayal. When he's done, I stand up, feeling a strange sense of relief. Thank you, Brad, I say, my voice calm. You can go now. He doesn't need to be told twice. He practically runs out of the bar, leaving Darlene and me standing there in silence. Mark packs up the camera, giving me a reassuring nod. You did good, Alex. This was the right thing to do. I know, I reply, my voice heavy with emotion. But it doesn't make it any easier. Mark claps me on the shoulder. Come on, let's get out of here. You've got a lot to process. As we leave the bar, I feel a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, relief. Darlene's betrayal has changed everything, but at least now I have the truth. And with Mark by my side, I know I can start to rebuild my life. We step out into the night, the cool air a welcome relief. I take a deep breath, feeling a strange sense of freedom. The road ahead won't be easy, but I'm ready to face it. One step at a time. In the days following the confrontation at the bar, I focus on moving forward. Darlene's betrayal still weighs heavily on my heart, but with the evidence I've gathered, I feel empowered to take control of the situation. Mark and I stay in close contact, discussing the next steps. I decide it's time to talk to Darlene face to face, away from the chaos. I call her and arrange to meet at a quiet park near our home. The tension in my voice is palpable, but I try to keep it steady. The park is serene, a stark contrast to the turmoil in my life. I arrive early, finding a bench under a large oak tree. The summer breeze rustles the leaves, bringing a momentary sense of peace. Soon enough, I see Darlene approaching. She looks tired, her shoulders slumped and her eyes puffy from crying. "Alex," she says softly, sitting down beside me. "Thank you for meeting me." "I didn't do it for you," I reply, my voice firm. "I did it for closure. We need to talk about what happens next." Darlene nods, tears welling up in her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Alex. I know I've hurt you deeply. I need to understand why," I say, my voice trembling. "Why did you do it? Why Brad?" She takes a deep breath, struggling to find the words. "I was lonely, Alex. You've been so distant lately, so consumed by your work. I felt neglected, like I didn't matter anymore." Her words sting, but I force myself to listen. "So, you decided to cheat? To lie to me?" "I didn't plan for it to happen," she says, her voice breaking. "Brad was just there. He listened to me, made me feel valued. But it was a mistake. I see that now." I stare at her, a mix of anger and sadness in my heart. "It's too late for apologies, Darlene. What you did can't be undone." She nods, wiping her tears. "I understand. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right, even if that means letting you go." The sincerity in her voice surprises me, but I can't shake the feeling that there's more to the story. As we sit in silence, my phone buzzes. It's a message from Mark. "Need to talk. Urgent. Come to my office." I stand up, feeling a sense of urgency. "I have to go. We'll talk more later." Darlene looks confused but doesn't protest. "Okay. Take care, Alex." I hurry to Mark's office, my mind racing with possibilities. When I arrive, Mark is waiting for me, his expression serious. "Alex, there's something you need to see," he says, leading me to his desk. He pulls up some files on his computer and shows me a series of documents and photos. "What is this?" I ask, feeling a knot in my stomach. "It's about Brad," Mark says, his voice grim. "He's not who you think he is." I lean in, scanning the documents. They reveal a history of deception, fraud, and manipulation. Brad has a record of targeting vulnerable women, using them for money and other gains before moving on to his next victim. "He's a con artist," I say, my voice barely a whisper. "He used Darlene." "Yes," Mark replies. "And there's more. I found evidence that he's been blackmailing her. He threatened to expose their affair unless she paid him." The pieces start to fall into place, and a wave of realization hits me. That's why she was so desperate. She wasn't just cheating, she was being coerced. Mark nods. "Exactly. We need to confront him, and we need to do it now." Fueled by a mix of anger and determination, we devise a plan to catch Brad in the act. We arrange to meet him at a deserted warehouse, under the pretense of Darlene delivering the money he demanded. Mark sets up hidden cameras and audio equipment to capture everything. The warehouse is dimly lit and eerily quiet. I hide in the shadows, my heart pounding as I wait for Brad to arrive. Mark is nearby, ready to spring into action if needed. Darlene arrives, looking anxious but resolute. Moments later, Brad walks in, a smug smile on his face. "You have the money?" he asks, his voice dripping with arrogance. Darlene nods, handing him a small bag. "It's all there. Now, leave me alone." Brad chuckles, opening the bag to inspect the contents. "You're too easy, Darlene. But I'm afraid this isn't over until I say it's over. That's my cue. I step out of the shadows, my voice echoing in the empty space. Actually, Brad, it is over. He spins around, his eyes wide with shock. Alex? What the hell are you doing here? Ending this, I say, my voice cold. We know everything. The blackmail, the manipulation, it's all over. Brad's expression shifts from shock to rage. You think you can stop me? You have no idea who you're dealing with. Before he can react, Mark steps forward, holding up his phone. It's all recorded, Brad. The police are on their way. Brad looks between us, realizing he's been outsmarted. He tries to bolt, but Mark and I block his path. It's over, I repeat, my voice steady. You're not getting away with this. Within minutes, the sound of sirens fills the air. The police arrive, taking Brad into custody. As they lead him away, he glares at me, but I feel a sense of vindication. Justice is finally being served. With Brad gone, I turn to Darlene. She looks relieved but also deeply shaken. Thank you, Alex, she says, her voice trembling. I never wanted any of this. I know, I reply, feeling a mix of emotions. But we need to figure out where we go from here. Over the next few weeks, Darlene and I work through our issues with the help of a marriage counselor. It's not easy, and the road to rebuilding trust is long and challenging. But with time, we start to heal. We learn to communicate better, to understand each other's needs and fears. In the end, the experience brings us closer together. We emerge stronger, with a renewed commitment to our marriage. The betrayal and deception were painful, but they also served as a wake-up call. We realize that we need to be more present in each other's lives, to prioritize our relationship above all else. As I sit on the porch one evening, watching the sun set, I feel a sense of peace. The journey has been tumultuous, but we've come out the other side stronger. Darlene joins me, her hand slipping into mine. We made it, she says softly, her eyes reflecting the golden light of the setting sun. Yes, we did, I reply, squeezing her hand. Together. And in that moment, I know that despite the trials and tribulations, we have found our way back to each other. The future is uncertain, but as long as we face it together, I know we can overcome anything.